filter in. We'll talk a little bit about our organization and kind of how we got started, and then we'll roll right into our presentation. It's a small group today, both online and here. So if you have any thoughts along the way or questions, just feel free to stop me. The whole point of this is to get you the information you need to make the best decision possible for you or your business or what have you. And then we'll talk a little bit about the co-op too at the end and kind of what we do here in Cuyahoga County. So we're Solar United Neighbors. I'm Tristan, the Ohio Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. We have been in business since 2009. We've worked all over the country. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and our whole mission is to join together and help everyone go solar, and then keep that group together and fight for energy rights, basically. So we do some. Hey, welcome. We do some work in the legislature, at town halls, at every level of government in order to do one specific thing that's just make it easier for people to add solar to their roofs, solar to their farms, solar to their businesses. Pretty straightforward. So
you have a flyer. The person
yeah,
there said they knew nothing about this.
Yeah, it's right over there. Yeah,
I'll give it to you.
Please do. Hopefully they're telling people where it is.
Yeah,
okay.
that's directed. Okay.
Okay, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Very good. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. Again, we've been around for a little while, 15 different states. Got about 6,500 folks who helped go solar so far. That's 53 megawatts. It's a big number. It's about 800,000, or actually 750,000 tons of CO2 saved so far. And that's broken up through a lot of different places. But since 2015 here in Ohio, we've helped well over 500 at this point people go solar. This is at the end of last year. Now we're at the end of this year, and we've helped another couple hundred people go solar. So we're already well over 500 folks having gone solar here in the state. So we're very happy with that progress. We're also working on our DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. We launched the first solar, low-income solar project in Cleveland, first in the state. Very happy about that. So we know that we have to help not just the individuals who can pay, but those who have trouble affording solar. So we're trying to find resources, try to develop financial products that work for them so we can help everybody go solar together and not leave anybody behind. It's very important to our work. There's three things we'll talk about today. One is the solar technology. Two is the solar economics. And then three is how you can go solar through our co-op. And again, whatever else you want to talk about, feel free to stop me. We can have a discussion. Always welcome questions. I like this idea of choose your own adventure when it comes to these presentations. So feel free to stop me. But first, we'll talk a little bit about solar technology. When I say solar, I mean photovoltaic solar. You know what that is? It's the solar panels that go on your roof that generate electricity. In fact, these are what those solar panels or modules look like. They're just about 3 feet by 5 feet, sometimes larger for commercial use. They're about 60 to 70 something, 62 to 72 of these cells, solar cells that are lined up, and they're sandwiched between two pieces of tempered glass, and they're cased in anodized aluminum usually. Sometimes there's a glass back, sometimes there's a piece of metal on the back and a junction box. Each of these panels produces anywhere from 300 to 400, even 450 watts of energy at any given moment. Just like a light bulb's rated in watts, our solar panels are rated in watts, except they're not using electricity, they're producing electricity. And they're producing direct current electricity. So you can use that energy straight out of the panel in some cases, if it's a direct current system. If it's not a direct current system, you'll need to convert that energy with what's known as an inverter. So there's more to this than just the solar panel. Solar panels will then aligned in series or parallel, depending on what you're trying to accomplish and how much energy you need, into what we call solar arrays. So solar arrays, I'll also call them solar systems. Solar arrays, solar systems. Those are some synonymous terms you'll hear throughout this presentation. Those solar arrays have to be attached to the roof somehow. We use what's called a racking system, a solar racking system. This is an asphalt roof, pretty typical residential solar installation and solar installation method using these types of racking systems. The flashing that goes under the shingles prevents any kind of water from getting in because there's no visible air, outside facing penetrations. They're covered by the top shingle, which is nice. There's all types of other installations. This is a roof mounted system that's also looks to be the residential, potentially commercial. This is a system that's actually attached to a standing seam metal roof. works just fine. In fact, there's no penetrations here at all. These are clamped to these individual seams. There's the mechanism up there. Is it the next slide? There it is. There's the mechanism that attaches to that standing seam. That way, again, you're not getting any penetrations. You're not voiding any type of warranty on these, usually sometimes life warranted roofs, because they're very durable roofs. So it maintains that durability, allows you to attach that system pretty well. Here's another system that's probably on a business. I'm not familiar with where this is, but this is a system that's ballasted. So just weighted down to the roof with these half cement blocks. It's not, again, no penetrating, just sitting there on the roof and weighted down. They have to be wind rated. They have to make sure that they're going to withstand whatever type of wind and situation, and also rated so that the roofs can hold them. There's a structural analysis that's always part of these larger projects. And well, actually, there's a structural analysis sometimes in smaller projects too, that has to be approved, that would make sure that that system is the right size and weight for that type of roof. Now, if you don't have any roof space, or for some reason you'd want just not to mess with your roof at all, you could put the system in your front lawn, back lawn, wherever, in a farm, in a field, wherever you want, basically. And that's called a ground mounted system. The cost is comparable, around the same cost, because you're just really adding a couple of pipes and you're not having to get up on the roof. Not too different. You can tell here with this array, you can mow under it pretty easily. Not too hard to maintain. And one of the most important things to remember here in Ohio is these type systems cannot be detached from the meter. You're going to have to make sure you trench back to your home, wherever that meter is, and you have to use that power wherever you put the systems. You can't, unfortunately, have it in a property, maybe in Sheffield, that you may own. Maybe you live in Rocky River. You can't put a system in Sheffield. You can't use that power in Rocky River. We don't allow that here in Ohio. Some states you can, here you cannot. I'll talk a little bit more about why and why not, why that might be the case. Like I said, you need more than just those solar panels to make this all work. You need something called an inverter. There's a couple different types of inverters. This is going to convert that direct current energy that solar system's collecting on your roof to alternating current, so you can use it in your home or business or what have you. So the first type is a string inverter, kind of a little bit older technology. I have a system in my house. I have a string inverter in my basement that converts all that energy for me. Those are two types of string inverters. I also have these optimizers. These are little doodads that go in the back of every panel that actually allow every panel to be controlled individually. It also allows every panel to be monitored individually, so that if one goes down, the little optimizer unit can skip that panel and go to the next panel. You're not going to disrupt the whole entire system. A string inverter without an optimizer, one panel could go down in your string and it could pretty much take your whole system down. So it's a really important piece of technology. All string inverters now pretty much come with optimizers. Still pretty popular, but what's even more popular now are the micro inverters. These are actually little tiny inverters that go on the back of every panel to convert that DC to AC on your roof, right? And at the panel, at the individual panel level, so that if one ends up going down, you still have a bunch of others that are working and producing energy. So there's really no difference between these two options in terms of reliability and what you can expect at the end of the day. Seamless energy flowing into your home. It all works the same. In fact, I think it's really a matter of preference, whether you want one or the other. Some people swear by microinverters because you get rid of this big box in your basement, a little bit less to deal with on the inside of your house or wherever you want to, deal with it. The other argument for string inverters is the microinverters, you just have more of a points of failure instead of having one place where one inverter may fail, though they're all warranted up to 12, sometimes even 25 years. This is a Solar Edge. Those could be warranted up to 25 years. By limiting the number of points of failure, you're limiting the amount of failure, right? So there's a couple different arguments for why you want to do one or the other. Again, I have a string inverter, older technology. It works fine for me. Any questions on some of this stuff? This is kind of like the bulk of the components of the electrical system. Any online comments on the internet?
Yeah, Tristan, Kathy wants to ask, she didn't understood how the shingles go on the shingle roof, how do panels go onto? So I'm just sending her the resources, but if you want to answer that question. Yeah,
we'll go back real quick. It's just a system. This is a racking system that mounts on these flashing mounts. These mounts are then drilled into the roof. There are holes in the roof, but those holes are covered then by the top part of the shingle. So there's pretty watertight. And now In fact, when I started a few years ago, this wasn't the case, but now all installers do offer warranties, pretty standard 5, 10, even 15-year warranties on workmanship, including roof penetrations. So I wouldn't worry too much about those holes being made. But yeah, that's how it's done. So back to inverters. Any other questions?
Nope, nothing in here.
Great. So how does my solar panel connect to my electrical panel? How does my system actually hook to my house? So basically, once it comes out of that inverter, it goes straight to your electrical box that is then able to power your whole home. At night, you're pulling energy from the grid still, and during the daytime, you're pulling energy from the sun when the sun's out. So if a cloud goes in front of your panels, you know, your production of solar energy will dip, but then your grid will backfill that, and will be a seamless transition between the solar and the energy that's being produced, solar energy and energy that's coming in from the grid. If at any moment you're overproducing solar energy, so here, let's look at this real quick. So you have that solar array, it's producing energy. That energy is going to the inverter. It's a great little graph, actually. That electricity is being used at the panel to your house, powering things at your home. At any given moment, you may be producing more energy than you need. That electricity is going back through your meter and then going back on the grid, and it's giving you a credit. It's called net metering. That's a big component of all this. And in fact, I call it the secret sauce as to what makes this all work here in Ohio. Because during these sunny months, we get a lot of sun, and during, I don't know if I see the sun in a week here, the last week or two, right? So, however, in the summertime, I was producing lots of energy, way more energy than I needed. And I was getting a pretty substantial credit, substantial being 20, 30, 40 bucks on my bill every month for this energy I was putting back on the grid. That credit's accrued to about $120 for me. And then over the course of a couple of months, I drew it down, month and a half. I don't use too much energy when it's cool out because I'm not using any air conditioning. I'm not using any heat really. So September, October, I draw that credit down. And then in the winter time, I'm out of credit and I'm just getting a little bit of production from my solar panels. But then, you know, March, April rolls around and I'm back to just using solar energy. So it's an accounting mechanism that really allows us to take full advantage of the value of the solar we're producing during the full year, basically. That makes sense. Net metering here in Ohio is done on a monthly basis too. So just basically the amount of energy you produce minus the amount of energy you use is what your bill is going to show every month. Works with NOPEC, it works with the aggregation. It's pretty seamless across the board because our state law basically requires utilities and aggregators to offer it. So that's net metering. Again, pretty important. I think this just shows what I said. The electricity from the grid minus electricity exported, then you're going to get how much you're either going to owe or all that jazz. I think that's how I said it. I think I said it right. Some considerations. There are a few extra additional considerations when it comes to making sure to get solar. If solar is going to work for you, it's going to be the way your roof is facing, really important. Got to have a south, east, or a west facing exposure, or you have to have those three, and you have to make sure you don't have any substantial shading. Some shades okay because of those optimizers, microinverters. Even now, if half a panel shaded, the other half will still produce energy, which is great. So you can have a little bit of shading at different times during the day, but during those peak hours, you need to have a pretty clear shot at the sun. And then the size of your roof, obviously, or the size of your ground system, wherever your ground is going to be. Your system's going to be on the ground, has to be enough to support the amount of energy you want to do. If you have a tiny roof, it may be prohibitive to do what you want to do. Systems can be sized up to actually 120% here in Ohio, but usually we size them to be about 100% of what your usage is. That's the goal, right? But you don't have to. You can get a system that's smaller. You can do a system that may only cover 30, 40, 50% of your need during the course of a year. Average system size here in Ohio is somewhere between 6 and 7 kilowatts. This is a 4.2 kilowatt size system if you assume that every one of these panels in the example is 350 watts per panel. And just to clarify, I threw in there, kilowatts, when we talk about kilowatts, that's a measurement of size of energy. These bulbs in here are either 30 watt fluorescents, or they're probably 5, 6, 7 watt LEDs, one or the other. Solar panels is the same thing. We rate them in sizes by watts. Kilowatt hours is how much energy we produce over the course of a day, month, year, whatever it's going to be. So in the summertime, a 6 kilowatt array at my house produces about 30 kilowatt hours of solar during one day. I only use about 10. It produces 3 times more energy than I use over the course of a day in the summer months. In the winter months, I might get a couple of kilowatt hours of usage out of that same system. So it varies greatly. But all modeling is done on a yearly basis. So they kind of factor all that in. It looks like we may have some questions online. At least there's some little red dots. I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Kathy wants to speak up. I'm just going to unmute.
Sure. Go ahead.
No, I think he answered the question about the roof fine. I didn't quite, though, get all this kilowatt business. You went pretty
sure.
fast there.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for slowing me down if I get a little bit ahead of you. But basically, the systems are rated in terms of kilowatts. So the system you see on the screen right there is a 4.2 kilowatt size system. Now, when we talk about how much energy that system produces, we talk about kilowatt hours. It's a different way of measuring things. So that system, this 4.2 kilowatt size system, if you left it in the sun at peak sun for 1 hour, you're going to get you're actually going to get 4.2 kilowatt hours, right? So, and over the course of a day, the system might produce 20 kilowatt hours in the summer months here in Ohio. So kilowatts is just the size of the system, the rating basically of the system. Kilowatt hours is how much power that system produces over time. I don't know if it's any clearer, but it's the best I can do. It's a concept took me a second to kind of wrap my head around. Net metering too took me a couple go arounds in my head before I understood really how net metering works. So don't feel bad if you're not getting it on the first uptake. I want to talk about batteries real quick. Really important. This is something that a lot of people think that if you have solar panels, you're just going to have energy whenever the sun's out, and if the grid goes down, you're going to be up because you got solar panels. Not necessarily the case. It's really important to note that when the grid goes down, your solar panel goes down, your solar system goes down too. It's important that because if it were on, it may backfeed the grid that's down. It could end up shocking somebody, or if the grid's down, it could really do damage to the grid itself. So it needs to self-isolate. And the only way a solar system can self-isolate is if you have a battery backup or some other form of generation in combination with that solar. And we strongly recommend batteries as an option. They're pretty expensive still, but they're certainly an option. They can't really be factored into the economics so much. We'll tell you a solar system will pay itself off eventually because you're producing solar energy with that, and it's actually going to pay itself off in the value of the solar. The generators don't, but you may need them. They may be great for, same thing with batteries, may be great for disaster preparedness, making sure the critical loads are powered throughout the day, especially if you have frequent outages. Some places here in Ohio have frequent outages. Batteries are becoming, I think, even more important in business. There's businesses on the east side, I know, that are switching their giant generators over to giant battery packs because they're just smoother in transitioning from the grid. And if they have essential machinery that needs to stay up, CNC machines and things and computers that need to stay up, having batteries to switch in seamlessly so that nothing goes down and they lose no production can mean literally millions of dollars to the bottom line, especially if the power grid is going in and out. So this is a big topic of conversation in the county with microgrids and trying to figure out how we shore up our energy using these more renewable, more elastic sources of power. So important stuff. And at the residential level, you can expect to spend anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 on batteries, depending on what you need. And it's not a must. You can have solar without the batteries if you want. But we got a great solar guide. Write this down: solarunitedneighbors.org/storage if you're really interested in the battery storage. EVs too. Make sure that there are actually options that plug directly into your inverter, which allow your solar system to power your car, essentially. Great way to drive on sunshine, essentially. I have an EV, a plug-in hybrid that I love, charge it off the sun. Great way to kind of continue that sustainability journey beyond solar. I'll stop there again. It looks like we have at least one more potential question here. Anything else, Fatima?
No, I don't see any questions.
Okay.
Unless anybody, please feel free to unmute and ask questions directly.
Great. Yeah, feel free. As you do, we'll get into the economics here. And this is pretty much the last section of our presentation. But basically, solar's become a lot less expensive over the course of the last few years. Since the 1970s, obviously, things have gotten a lot cheaper on the solar panel front. even with the supply chain issues and things happening, solar has still managed to come down in cost. Well, this is only up to 2020, but still, one of the largest costs across the board have been soft costs. And this is where the solar co-op, which we'll talk about in just a second, helps, because we're able to sort of help reduce what installers have to pay for their leads and marketing and everything by pulling you all together, doing an RFP, and actually getting the solar a little bit cheaper. Very important stuff. Here's a pricing example. This is also in that sheet you have, and you want to grab one there in the back there, but I think you have one of them. And so, yeah, don't worry about writing this down, but you can see that let's just pick a 10 kilowatt size system. It's pretty linear, 5, 10, 12, we're going to have the same sort of numbers, scale pretty similarly. So you might pay $27,000 for that out the door at that $2.70 a watt, which I'm guessing where we're going to be in the co-ops here next year is about $2.70 a watt, maybe a little more, $2.75, $2.80, somewhere in there, just because supply chain stuff and inflation has affected pricing a little bit. $27,000, you're going to get 30% back in the tax credit. So we have an investment tax credit going on right now. And it's going to be going on the next 10 years. It's not going anywhere. It just got raised from 26 to 30%. That means that if you have the tax liability, it's a non-refundable tax credit. You apply for that at the end of the year, you're going to get, if you have the liability, 30% of that back. So $8,000 takes a net cost of the system down to $19,000. A system of this size in Ohio, we know this pretty clearly, that it'll produce $1,508 worth of savings that year. So that's how much you're saving over just paying your electricity bill without solar. Adds up to being, at the end of the day, about, it looks like at about a year 11 and a half, you are at that break-even point. I honestly think it'll be faster because of how electricity prices are going up. We know they're going to be going up next year. So it'll probably be closer to 10 years payback period. I consider it pretty safe, I think. And then all these systems are warranted, at least for the inverters, 25 years, racking systems, 30 years, panels, 30 years. So 25 years is a pretty conservative estimate on the life of the system. You're going to expect some net profit in the value of the system. So it's a good proposition. What I tell people is if you want to make money, there's probably better ways to do it. Probably not cryptocurrency, but there's other things you can put your money into to make money. But this doesn't mean that this is not a sound financial decision, right? This is still a way to put money somewhere and fix your utility costs a little bit and actually make a little bit of a return on investment on that. So it's a good thing to do from an economics perspective. See, did this slide come through? Talking a little bit about here, Cuyahoga specifically, the country as well. We have a couple of things. We have the Clean Energy Credit Union as a form of paying for these systems. So you don't have the cash, you can actually go to Clean Energy Credit Union. They're a partner of ours. One reason we reference them a lot is because you just go onto the website, you could look at the terms, they put them on their website. They're actually a FDIC-backed credit union that gives loans specifically for solar arrays. And you can see what the going rate is for how much you should be paying for a loan to do this stuff, if that's what you want to do. We also provide some examples of loans. You can take a look at that at 10 and 15 years at different system sizes to get a sense for how much the net payment's going to be for that system to kind of help you plan. This is all on our website too, in our Go Solar guide. But we just want to give you some options. One of the best things here in Cuyahoga County, because it's subsidized, is the Cuyahoga County Help Loan. And you'll have to Google that. It's a long link on the county's website. But if you Google Cuyahoga County Help Loan, it'll actually pull up the website for the county. It's a 3% subsidy. So they're actually going to pay down 3% of your APR for a home equity loan, HELOC type loan for some types of improvements with some restrictions, 10-year loan. So if you qualify, what's a good loan right now? 6%, 6.5% loan. It'll buy down 3%. It becomes a 3.5% loan. And so it saves a little bit of money. A good way to get probably some of the cheapest money to do these kind of improvements. And that's what we're all about, just trying to get you the right information to help you go solar. So let's touch on the solar co-op. Basically, the whole point of the solar co-op is to get a bunch of people together, Here in Cuyahoga, we want to get at least 100, if not 200 people in a group. And then we go to bid with that. Basically in January, maybe late February at the very, very latest. So in that period of time, we'll take those group and we'll issue an RFP to all the installers in the region. And then we'll have you, the co-op members, I think we're already up to 20 or 30 members, actually then pick that installer that's going to service the group. So you get to see all the bids. You'll pick that one installer that's going to service the entire co-op, and then they'll issue proposals based on that bid. And usually that rate they give is really competitive, if not the best rate you can find out there. And they're happy to work with us too, because we're bringing them educated customers that generally want to go solar. So they don't have to do too much work in the marketing side of things, which brings down their soft cost, which again is the larger chunk of what it costs to go solar is the soft cost. So that's how the co-op works. Here's kind of how it's staged. So right now we're in this 1 to 3 month period where we're actually trying to get people to sign up for the co-op, doing these information sessions around the county. Then we'll select an installer here, probably, I would say late January is when that's going to happen. Sign up deadline will come probably, I can't remember exactly, maybe Fatima remembers.
31st March.
The 1st of March?
March 31st.
So the end of March will be that sign up deadline. Once we get, I think it says May there. I guess I got that wrong. So March 31st, and then the proposals will go out to everybody. They'll actually go out before that during the co-op because the installer will start getting to work as soon as we've selected them. And then those installations happen, and it'll happen in the spring. I would anticipate the first installations will happen as early as April, just to give you a sense of when that's going to happen. And then we'll have a party. We'll celebrate together. I do see we have some more little red dots, which means there's questions on the.
Sorry, Tristan, I've been sharing the links as you're going on, so that's why you're seeing those down.
Oh, very good. Oh, very good. So here's a link, Solar United Neighbors / Cuyahoga. I think it's actually in that flyer back there too. And that's about it. I mean, we have a little bit more here about some of the other initiatives we have going on around the country. You know, we're in every state, we're beginning pretty hard at trying to get states, local governments, the federal government to invest and do the right things and actually just make it easier for people to go solar. You don't need a lot of extra additional help when I think the market right now has decided that this is the way we're going. It's cheaper than fossil fuels by far, and it's going to keep getting cheaper. We just need to clear the barriers, make sure our state legislatures and other entities stay out of the way. In Australia, solar's down to $1 a watt because they've just streamlined, and they're not subsidizing it. They just streamlined permit processes, and they streamlined and just made it easy for people to go solar. We're looking for, you know, that's what our organization intends to do, is get to a point where we've just streamlined things to a point where it's just easy across the board. So, yes.
Does the request for quotation include a requirement for them to purchase American-made panels?
So it's one of the questions. It's one of the questions in the questionnaire. So there's a couple extra steps I didn't mention, kind of breezed over. One would be when you join the co-op, you go online and you'll click on the link, or you'll fill out a form. You can do it here. There's some preferences, and one of the preferences is USA-made products. We take those preferences, and then the selection committee, which anybody here can join the selection committee if you're a co-op member, will get to use those preferences to select the company. So it's up to you, in other words. But that is something we screen for and we ask about because we know it's important to people.
If we're doing work on our house and we can't sign up by March the 31st, is there another cycle where this is going to go through?
Yeah, in fact, we have a contract with the county. So usually I would say, I don't know, or just wait and see, but we have a great relationship with Cuyahoga County. We'll have one more co-op on this cycle. So there will be one after this.
Okay, thank you.
But beyond that, I can't guarantee anything because then we're outside of our contract. So yeah, good questions.
Can I still be in the co-op? Everybody else gets a 410 watt and I get a 450 because I'm paying extra.
Yeah, I think at the very least, be in the co-op, get the proposal. There may be a higher wattage option. They're showing up more and more now. Usually the high watt option is like closer to 410. We call it a high efficiency option. But I would still join the co-op, and if there's an option, you know, they'll